evening, everybody. Thank you for attending. Thank you for everyone who is joining us electronically. This is a study session of the City Council, the City of Waverly in Iowa. Today is Monday, July 22nd. It is 7 p.m. We are at City Hall, and this meeting is called to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you're at home keeping score, Councilperson Kangas is still on a family vacation, but that's okay because we are joined by Jared, who has returned for a second meeting. That's great. Most guest council people run away after the first one. It's nice to have you back.
Looking forward to being here again.
Again, I'll call on you at the end of the meeting if you have any comments. Otherwise, if you have something important, just shout.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Council, you have in front of you a proposed agenda. I wonder if there's someone who'd like to make a motion.
I will move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I hear none. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passed unanimously. We turn to public comments for items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to address something that is not on tonight's agenda, please rise now. I see no one rising, so that we will move into our study session. The first item on our study session is an introduction of the new Waverly-Shell Community School District Superintendent. I'll call on the board member to introduce him.
All right.
Well known throughout the community, this is Petra's mom.
Petra's mom. Yeah. It's so true. Well, thank you for allowing us to be on the agenda this evening. I'm Charlene Wyatt Sauer, aka Petra's mom, current president of the Waverly-Shell School Board. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our new superintendent, David Hill. Mr. Hill started on July 1st with a pretty seamless transition from Ed Clamfith. Since his hiring back in February, as you may recall, he has actually attended several board meetings, attended many community events in both Waverly and Shell Rock, and has been active with the searches for new administration leaders. We've had some transition at the middle school and Lead Center as well, and elementary. He has also done a tremendous job in his first 22 days of leadership of getting up to speed on our buildings, meeting with staff, as well as leading all of us through our tragic loss of Suze Smolikagan, whom that's really hit us hard. We are so pleased with the grace and kindness in his leadership that he has shown, as well as the swift communication to the WSR community, and especially making himself available to so many different people that really needed him as our leader at this time of need. He has our utmost confidence to lead Waverly-Shell Rock into its next chapter as a premier public education school system in the state of Iowa, serving all of our children and our families. So, and I'm sure many of you are aware of his background through various news articles and social media sharings. However, with that said, I will turn it over to David and he can continue sharing more. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Very kind introduction. Thank you, Charlene. So I join you tonight as one of your newest citizens. Actually, the day I was here in February interviewing for the superintendent job, a big part of the interviews were held at the Veterans Post. And there was a little break in between the interview at the Veterans Post and another interview with the board down at the district office near the high school. And so I thought I'd drive around a little bit. So I turned right when I left the Veterans Post parking lot and just kept turning right and saw a for sale by owner sign on a house and snapped a photo of it and thought, well, just in case we would happen to get the offer and have the opportunity to move to this area, that might be a good house. And we did look at other homes and looked at other options, and we just kept coming back to that one. And fortunately, the owners were gracious enough to let us look at it 3 or 4 different times and bring back our sons and really take an in-depth look at it. And that's where we ended up settling. So we closed on the house in April and had, starting in about mid-April, had weekly trips up here to mow the lawn, and then moved up here in early May, and so for the months of May and June, I commuted back to Traer to North Tama, where I was finishing up my time as the superintendent there. But we've been very welcomed here and have been so pleased with our short time here in this community. Just a little background on me, and yes, it's covered in the paper, so you can read background on me through the community as well. But I've known since I was in 3rd grade that I wanted to be a teacher, and from that point on I just was trying to figure out what kind of teacher I wanted to be, going back and forth between when I was even a senior in high school, trying to decide if I wanted to be a 1st grade teacher where the action was and you could teach kids to read, because that is so important, and my other choice, which is a pretty stark contrast to that, and that's to be a high school agriculture teacher. I grew up on a family farm and have had a love for agriculture, but know that it's not in me to be a farmer, but I appreciate and love agriculture, and the family farm is very important to me. So I ended up deciding that was a way to kind of marry those two loves and those two interests, my love for agriculture and my love for education. So I went to Iowa State University to major in ag education, graduated and took my first and only teaching job in the Benton Community School District. That's one of those WAMAC school districts that you hear of quite often in the town of Van Horn, just west of Cedar Rapids, and taught there for 9 years. While I was teaching at Benton Community, I was encouraged by several who saw some leadership potential in me to pursue a master's degree to become a school principal. One of those individuals who encouraged me was the high school principal that recruited and hired me at Benton Community and then became the superintendent there. And he is now actually retired and living here in Waverly. Gary Zittigren is his name. And if these are televised, I don't know if he's watching, but I'll give him all the credit in the world because he was a model for leadership, always standing up for what was right for the community and most importantly for the kids. And I think of him as an absolute role model and was a mentor for me as I progressed as a school administrator. So I did attend Drake University and received my master's degree and a principal's endorsement. And I wasn't quite ready to go to leave the classroom, or I thought I would probably teach for a few more years, but the opportunity came up to return to the elementary school that I had attended as a child and become the principal there. So I went from my job of being a more than full-time high school agriculture teacher and FFA advisor in a very successful FFA program, was gone all the time, busy all the time, very proud of what we accomplished there, but one thing I'm not very proud of is that I wasn't the dad that I should have been, because my wife and I have 3 sons, and I was gone all the time leading those successful programs. I went from that position to being the elementary principal at my son's elementary school, and had the opportunity to see those boys every single day in their classrooms and in the lunchroom and as they walked through the halls, and was the elementary principal there in the Union District for 11 years. For a large part of that time, by the way, James Bronner was on the school board at Union. So who knows, maybe there'd be an opening on the school board here someday and he'd have some interest, but he's got experience.
You never know.
We can say that. So, by the way, I went to high school with James too, so if you want some stories.
Let's just leave that alone.
How much time do we have here?
I am now. Let's just leave it at that.
Enough about that. We'll stop there because I think James is going to pay me a little something to stop. But after 11 years as the elementary principal there, again, I was encouraged to pursue further education, and I did receive a specialist degree again from Drake University, and became the superintendent at North Tama County Community School District located in Traer, Iowa, and that's where I've served for the last 9 years. And for a portion of that time, I was also shared between North Tama and another school district, the Gladbrook-Rhinebeck School District, and had the opportunity to help lead that and help that school district heal and lead them through a very difficult time in the history of that school district. But both of those school districts emerged stronger during that time because of the efforts of amazing school boards and awesome school staff and communities that really got behind their schools. Now, here this winter, I wasn't necessarily looking to make a change, but I kept seeing the I knew that Ed Clamfith was going to be retiring since the prior fall when he had announced to us at a superintendent's meeting, and I've always had great impressions of this community. You can even read the paper about some of the times that I spent in Waverly growing up and things like that. But wasn't really sure if it was the right thing for me, and really wrestled because I do love the school district that I just left. We just passed a bond issue last fall and are breaking ground on a new high school this summer at North Tama. So it's been tremendously a lot of job satisfaction with that work. But I kept feeling the call, and I eventually did submit an application, and folks here saw fit to include me among their finalists. And then I came here for the day to interview and fell even more in love with this place and its people. Sitting down with the board members for an interview, sitting down with community representatives and staff here and the administrative team, I just knew these were people that I wanted to work with, and so was very happy to have the opportunity presented to me, and didn't take long. It was pretty much an immediate yes when I was given the offer. Like I said, I did snap that photo of that house while I was here that day, and we closed on our house in April, moved here in May. Had a couple of months of commuting, about 45 minutes one way to Traer, and there were some pretty long days as we finished up our work there. But it's been a great opportunity to get acclimated to the community here and to our new home. In the short time here, and even before starting, because I officially started here on July 1st, as Charlene said, we've really enjoyed getting to know the businesses in this community, the organizations in this community. If you are part of a community organization and I have not spoke to your group yet, I'm open to invitations. I'd like to get out and visit with community service organizations, for example. Have joined the Exchange Club, and I'll probably leave that to be my main community involvement besides the school work, of course. I think you can get spread too thin if you get involved in too many different things. But if join the Exchange Club, we love the bike trails here. I know I don't look like someone who rides RAGBRAI, and I don't. Otherwise, I'd be out of town this week. But I just truly enjoy spending time on a bicycle, and it's one of the best ways to get to know a community. So we have figured out the whole thing with First Street and First Avenue and all that type of thing in the southeast and north, those things. It took me a little while, but got that all figured out, and I feel like I know my way around town really well. But the most important thing is the way that people have treated us here, and that's not just the school staff and the city folks that we've encountered and the school board, but even our neighbors. I was telling Charlene that our neighbors 2 doors down invited us up for burgers one night here not too long ago, and we thought it was just going to be my wife and myself and then them, and it turned out there were 10 couples from our neighborhood that were there, and it was a dinner held in our honor, and that just says a lot about this community and the sense of community here. So it has been a crazy 22 days since July 1st, with a little bit of a break around the 4th to enjoy the Shell Rock 4th of July celebration and some time with family. But they've been long days as we work to button up these elementary projects. By the way, I got quite a bit of experience with school construction in my previous work, and I will say that I have never, ever been a part of a school construction project that was completed on time. It just doesn't happen. That's just not realistic. And these projects, there will be portions that do need to be, some of the details that need to be completed even after the school year starts. But when we look back on this time, we won't remember that. We will be so happy to have these amazing facilities for learning in Shell Rock and in Waverly. They are great spaces for learning, that they're designed with the needs of today's learners in mind. And so there's still work to be done, but we will be able to have school on the first day in all of our facilities. And I'm very excited to see the awesome staff, all the teachers and paraeducators and nurse and bus drivers and coaches and everyone in action here. There are so many things that are going in the right direction at Waverly-Shell Rock. Even schools that are functioning very well, though, you should always be looking at areas for improvement. And that's something that, this community deserves the very best school that it can have. And so we will continue to look at areas for improvement. And during this coming school year, we intend to embark upon the process of really revisiting our values, what is important to us in this community, this educational community, and developing a strategic plan that will lead us forward as a school district for the next 15 to 20 years. Because I think it's important to do that periodically, and what better time when you have a new superintendent taking the lead and also opening new facilities, so restructuring, lots of other things. I really, really look forward to doing that. Would sure open it up to any questions that you might have for me, and I'll say too that if you have questions that you would prefer not to ask me inside of or in a meeting like this, that give me a call at the office, flag me down when you see me in the community. I have essentially an open door policy, although it's so open that I'm often with somebody else who came in that open door. But I'm willing to talk, willing to answer questions, listen to concerns. I understand that some of us have kids that are involved in our public schools. Some of us don't have kids in school at all. Some have kids that are being educated in other ways, and all of those ways are valid because it's a parent's choice how they educate their child, whether it be homeschooling or a private school, or maybe they're even a resident of Waverly or Shell Rock and they're choosing to enroll their kids in another public school district. We have pretty open schooling in Iowa, and I think that's a good thing. Parents need to be able to make those choices for their child, and I support that. But my vision is that Waverly-Shell Rock will be a school of choice for students in Bramer and Butler counties, that we will offer a product that meets the needs of the kids and families in this community, and I look forward to discussions on how we can make that all happen. Any questions that you
Yeah,
have? for me?
Superintendent Hill, I'm grateful to hear that your family's had a soft landing. But I know that in your office, it hasn't been quite so gentle. You've a new superintendent, 2 new school buildings. You have to onboard 2 new principals, a bunch of new staff, and you and I had to sample 9 pies over the weekend.
We sure did. What an
So-
experience.
I hope that the citizens of both Waverly and Shell Rock will extend you every grace and kindness as we get through all this newness and all the things that need to change. I'm wondering if you could say a few words about your educational philosophy.
It comes down to this: every child, regardless of their background, regardless of what family they come from, regardless of their socioeconomic status or any other box that you could tick, every child deserves a quality education. They deserve adults in their lives that are going to put them first. Many kids have that through their own home, through their family, and that is awesome. Some don't. And it's our mandate as a public school to open doors for those kids, to provide learning opportunities and a supportive environment, to meet them where they are, regardless of where they are, and help move them forward. Again, I said that I'm supportive of school choice, and along with that, I believe it is a parent's responsibility to raise and educate their child. It's a parent's responsibility to do that. The school we are happy to partner with parents and be a tool that will work with parents. And in those cases where maybe parents are either choosing to live up to their responsibility or aren't capable of doing that, or they just need some temporary help, we're here to do that. That's what we're here for. That's why we exist. We don't exist to create jobs for educators. We don't exist to have these awesome, wonderful buildings. They're great tools for learning too. But the most important thing, the most important resource that we invest in kids isn't these buildings or the dollars that we spend on materials and programs. It's the people. It's making sure that they have quality teachers, quality coaches, and other adults to give them the support they need to help move them forward. So I could talk all day about my educational philosophy, but that's really what it comes down to is every kid, no matter who they are, they deserve an education, and I'm honored to have a chance to be a part of that.
With 22 days under your belt, it'd be ridiculous to ask your long-term goals, but do you have any short-term goals for the next few months?
Well, it goes back to what you said, actually, Mark, is making sure that new staff, including new leadership, get onboarded, making sure that we have a smooth transition into these new buildings, because there always are bumps in the road when you make transitions like that, including there will be changes with our transportation system that go along with this, and being able to adjust on the fly when things maybe don't go exactly like we had expected or like we had hoped. Those are short-term goals that I have. The district is investing a lot in preschool this year and opening a new preschool center at the Southeast building, and I'm very excited to see that get off the ground. So some of these new and these changes, they absolutely are my short-term goals. Long-term goals you didn't ask, but I'm going to just say that in general, I'm going to let the strategic planning work that we will do guide my long-term goals. It's not about me and what I want, but what as a community we want and have as a vision for our school. And so if you asked me my long-term goals for right now, all I could say is that I do have that vision to be a school of choice for students in this area. But beyond that, we're going to let the strategic planning work guide that work.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for the superintendent?
I suppose I would speak as a Wartburg College professor. It's been very fortunate that there is a good partnership between the high school and the college. So a number of high school students will take classes at the college. So I've been fortunate to have a number of high school seniors and the occasional high school junior taking classes at Wartburg into my classes. All of my children who've gone through WSR have had that opportunity to take classes. My youngest child is going to be a WSR senior, and I know she's looking forward to taking a number of classes at Wartburg next year. I suppose I would just like to encourage you to make sure that that partnership continues and continues to flourish, because I think it's great both for the students to have that opportunity to take classes in a college. It's great for the college to get more students in our class, and I think that it saves us from duplication of resources. That there are courses that we can deliver very nicely at the college, and it doesn't make sense for you to try to be teaching those same classes at the high school when they could go to the college and get the same experience. So
what a tremendous advantage too, coming from a much smaller school system where there was no college in the area. I mean, the closest college was about 26 miles away, and it was a community college. We had our partnerships, but there were so many barriers to those partnerships. I look forward to learning more about those partnerships.
And I should say that you talked about Gary Zittergruen. Jeff Zittergruen, his son, took classes from me, and I know that Katie Zittergruen also went to Wartburg. So
yes, yeah, it's a Wartburg family, that's for sure.
I would just say that I was very impressed with your response to the tragedy and your prompt response and offering of resources for people that would, want to seek that. So, as a parent of a child in high school, I was impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I know that makes, not the way to start your new job.
That's something that, we're monitoring how those resources are being used. Because if the if the need is great enough, there are additional resources we can tap into. And so far, we have been meeting the need of anyone that has reached out and asked for support. But we understand that that's going to be ongoing. For some of those elementary students, it'll hit when school starts. And so we'll need that support ongoing. But thank you very much.
Anything else, council? Superintendent, welcome to Waverly. We're very glad to have you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Charlene. Friends, that means we'll turn to item 2, a discussion and update of the referendum projects, that is the swimming pool and the golf clubhouse. I'll turn the rest of the meeting over to James.
All right, as you've seen, we presented you with some numbers. There's a lot of places in those numbers. You're looking at about 5.5 million for the clubhouse renovation. You're looking at about just under 9 million for the pool to be reconstructed and done. The figures that we've pulled have been from architects, engineers, some vendors that do this work. It's been based on square footage cost, cubic yard cost, etc. So the hard part about this is you're forecasting a year out. So this would not even come to fruition until the bonds were sold, if this passes in the fall, till July. And at that point, you still have to get people on board until the contracts, best case scenario, would go out in January, February, if this can get done in that time. So to try and forecast that in the volatile environment we're in, it is difficult. So there is a lot of contingency in here. The worst thing that can happen is if you get approval and then you're 90% done and you're out of money. And that happens. We've seen it happen, as David has talked. We sat in the school board where it got really close on a couple buildings that, ooh, it was tight. You don't want that to happen. That's why there is contingency built in here. I don't believe we're gonna borrow anywhere near this necessarily. When I say anywhere near, I'm not talking it's gonna be half, but it's gonna be substantially less, I believe. We've had very good luck in our bidding lately, whether it's been bridges, streets, etc. There's a very hungry construction atmosphere, so I think we'll have solid bids. Again, assuming this passes in the fall, which we will know, I guess, early November. In the meantime, we will probably start to get engineering done ahead of time, which will help speed this process up if it does go through. But as I said, golf club, the cost came through Martin Gardner Architects, MGA, Mark Moyne, JEO Engineering has done the pool. And these are the items they brought forward to us. When you see cost of issuance at the bottom, that is to get our bonds. So you're talking about Spear Financial, Allers and Cooney, Bond Council, Moody's ratings, your underwriter fees, all that stuff, and the additional contingency to hopefully help us with soft costs that we're not seeing at this point in time. So I know that, again, they're sizable numbers, but that is for a reason, because if you're gonna get approval, make sure you have enough to actually finish the job. And when we start digging into the ground, or we take 2 feet off the top of that hill the golf club sits on, you don't know what you're gonna find. You hope it's dirt. Some days it is, some days it's not dirt. You may find part of a car. We don't know what's in that hill from how long it's been there. So that's what you're seeing in front of you. I'll gladly have any discussion you'd like. We'll also talk about campaign finance as it pertains to this project moving forward for the fall, but we'll entertain any questions, any kind of estimates, or any issues you might see in front of you. But these are the numbers that were sent to us from the architects and engineers, and I've summarized them out for you today.
I suppose my first question is, do we have the debt capacity for it?
Sure, it's right there. It's gonna eat up all of it, depending on how far we go.
Okay.
You're looking at about 14.5 million on this, if, worst case scenario, we borrowed this. That's about what we have for capacity.
Okay.
The kicker that some people talk about is, what if one passes, the other one doesn't? Then it's an entire another year before you can bring this back again. We really can't do any marketing in the meantime. When I look at the Memorial Park renovation as a whole, which we've been talking about for a long time now. We had the fees out there for the remodel to the park. We've had the mapping done. These are the first 2 phases of that park. Following this would be Kids Kingdom, then your shelters, then your concrete work for sidewalks, whatever it may be, and we still have to figure out what's going to go in the west side of the park, since the pool is going to be built on site now, instead of the shift that we had going when we looked at the original plans. That's all gonna be factored in. Dare I say pickleball? I don't wanna say pickleball, I don't know what's gonna happen
Don't
there.
say pickleball.
That is an area where an errant golf ball may turn and land right in the middle of your court. Probably not the best place to be playing pickleball. We'll figure out what may or may not go there. So some of the highlights for people that are just tuning in or have been, gone or their head in the sand for the last year. The pool obviously didn't open. It's a 57-year-old facility. The slides are almost 30 years old. It does leak a lot of water, at least I think 1.7 million in gallons is a lot of water. We did look at what it would take to fix it as it stood today. That estimate was pushing about 4 million. And that is no splash pad, nothing new, just fixing the guts of it to make it compliant with the code. It is simply that outdated with items that we have, from the bathhouse issues to the mechanical room to everything. So a lot of that would be stripped out, and you're still sitting there with the same shape, same depth, no zero entry, which has been a huge deterrent for a lot of families. When the most shallow part of that pool is 3 foot deep, a lot of little kids simply can't play in that. So that has been a huge detriment. On the golf course side, that facility is 80 years old. It has been pieced together. It is not ADA compliant in any way or form, which is a huge problem for us. You do have a step down when you get there, which we would like to eliminate. There are plumbing issues, there are electrical issues, there are a lot of basement issues. It's not carpet growing down there, so the locker rooms are tough. Everything about that building, again, it's 80 years old. It has served its purpose. And we would like to get that down to a single level, and you've seen the plans for it, fly-through, et cetera. Single level, porch, patio type thing instead of the decks. And it'll be simple. I was talking to a couple council ahead of time. I've sat with Jordan David. We've taken a very conservative approach to what we think the simulators will generate. There is a very good chance they could cash flow the building, and we would not be applying taxes to it going forward for some amount of time. I can't promise it, but the numbers are very conservative, and it looks, again, very promising that that would happen. The mayor sent me an article some time ago that actually more rounds were played on simulators a year ago than golf courses. And that's the first time in history. So that trend is happening. We're wanting to take advantage of that, bring in our simulators, have those winter leagues, keep people going there all year round. Although last year I think we golfed 11 months because you had the 2 weeks of winter and then it was away again. It's done 30,000 rounds in the last year. I don't know if we'll hit that or not. It's been extremely active. Weather's been hampering a little bit, but it's a very popular course as well. So both of these projects have very good pros to doing them. The con, obviously, is the cost. And as we move forward, Spear's working on, we will have to publish what the impact per $100,000 evaluation is. We have the estimates. I did not have them with me. I've not had time to review them yet. But that'll be something else to be out there for the public to consider. What is the cost impact, worst case scenario on this? Unfortunately, we do plan to use local option sales tax, assuming the state leaves it alone, it's still there. We will use that, a good portion of it, to cut down the price of this from a taxable standpoint. Roughly $600,000 of it. We can't really show or use that anywhere in these forms because that is something, again, could go away. You as a council could decide to not utilize it for that. And so we have to go off pure 100% taxable valuation of these. So as people look at these numbers, they get out on Facebook court and people do what they do. Have that in the back of your mind that these are very inflated to the sense they have to be in order to give us a not to exceed maximum to get these projects done if they go forward. So
Is it fair to say that these are worst case scenario numbers?
I sure hope so. If they're not, then we don't need to be doing these.
Yeah.
But these should be worst case scenarios. Seldom do you want the engineering firm to be your low bid. And they know that too. So they have got good estimates in here. They're realistic, but there is a bit of contingency placed in there, whether it's bidding, construction, general, just soft cost for contingency. It is a chunk that's in here for that very reason, just to make sure, again, we have the funding to finish these projects if we start them. You really can't phase either one of them. You can't start half the pool, fill it up. It just doesn't work very well. You can't do half the golf course. The law doesn't allow it. We can't phase these out. The other piece of the pool that we did look at, so you're aware, we looked at what would it be to add zero depth to the existing pool. Because of the 3 foot depth limit, you would have to back that out so far, it wasn't really feasible. The only way to actually add zero depth was to go through where the wading pool is. It's awful to try and do that. We've looked at it, we've tried to reconfigure it. It's another $1 million to do it, and it really doesn't get you much. And it's still without a splash pad, without updated mechanical some of it. It really is not conducive to what we're trying to do. So that is why we have pushed forward to go ahead with the pool replacement estimates as they sit. So August 5th, we'll be bringing ballot language to you. That's why we had to push this to get the numbers out tonight, so that you'll be able to look at that and consider the language as to what will go to the actual ballot in November. That'll start this process. We'll get that to the county auditor, and then before you know it, November will be here. And people have been out there talking about it, marketing it, hopefully, and we'll get to that point. So that's another thing we'll need to talk about here in a few minutes. That's what we've kind of included, is the marketing and how this can work through campaign finance. I think it's chapter 68A. So any other questions on the numbers, other than, yes, they are that big? Well aware.
I just have a procedural question on
You bet.
the engineering services. I know we've talked about this before, and it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and proceed with some of the engineering and architectural work prior to getting approval for the bond, so we're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Once everything is approved. And then I assume that the cost of those services would basically be, without use of a better term, backfilled, back to the city from those funds that we used to do that.
Yes, sir, we'd be reimbursed for
Okay.
those funds at the time the bond was, because this includes all that in there.
Right.
So that number would backfill the dollars we've spent.
So just worst case scenario, if one or both of these projects, one or both of these bond issues was not approved, and that money was out there, I mean, we'll still have the engineering studies, they'll still be ready to go for, if we decide to bring this up again in November 2005, or November 2006, whatever, they're still legitimate, so it's not like that money has been wasted.
Correct.
But what accounts do they actually come out of, and what other things would we be doing with that money that we're not able to do because we're paying for the engineering costs?
Well, depending on the cost of the engineering, we have a significant amount of money that sits in our economic development fund. And so when you look at your audited financials, they're broken into these categories, whether it's public safety to your park and rec, also to your capital. That capital fund as a whole is what has to be in a positive state for it to be not audit compliant. So when you look at this, when you add bond proceeds into there, they are able to cover that cost that you have spent on the engineering. And again, the local option for the economic development fund is sitting well over $500,000. That can cover that part up to zero that out. We have to be careful that that entire fund stays flush, though we not run that down. So as we continue to have debt that comes in, proceeds, we are under budget at times in our projects, which we've talked about, we'll utilize that accordingly. That all helps offset those costs, but at some point in time, we will have to pay those out. Same thing we did with the Green Bridge. Oh, I hate to utter that, my apologies. And I don't want this to become another one of those,
Yeah.
where we go through this, we talk about it, we don't do anything. Something has got to get done with these facilities. We borrowed, we did all the studies, and they sat there. It took us 3 years to pay that down and pay that off as we went without borrowing to do so. And again, without the actual vote to do so, we can't borrow to pay those down. We could chip away at them year after year. We could use our CIF, our local option sales tax. The vote last year allowed us to do that. You could chip away at them and eliminate them if the projects went away. But I would hope that eventually we would be able to complete these and then again, refund them back. Oftentimes, construction takes a reimbursement resolution, a certain amount of time after it's been accomplished, but with these professional services, such as engineering, architecture, those do not require reimbursement resolutions. They're always able to be refunded back with bonds for what they were meant to cover, so we don't have to do that on these.
Okay.
But it does make things very tight. I mean, these are large projects. I mean, Justin and I have talked about, we have a whole list of other projects we probably need to get done sooner than later. These will put them on hold for a year, if
Right.
both these are successful. But as the year moves forward, you pay down a little bit, we'll insert a project, and we'll continue. So we'll be at our cap for a number of years. We've done this before, from back when we redid the, would have been the Parkway, and some of the work that was happening there in Bremer Avenue, we were at our cap as well, and we brought that back down. Same thing will happen here. We will cycle up. We will pay down that money as we go forward. We'll bring it right back down for our next major project, whatever that may be. So this is not unfamiliar. It's just, it is a lot of money. Yeah.
How long do you envision the bond lasting?
I love 10-year bonds. There's no way we can do that with this. This will be the first time I've ever done a bond over 10, 11 years, other than the SRF, which is a 20 mandatory, and then we pay it off early. Probably a 15. I would look at a 15-year bond. We could do 20 and less than the payment, pay it off early. There are gonna be call features on this 6, 8 years out, so if the interest dropped, we could reimburse back that interest there. Advance refundings may come back, the federal level, which allow us to go out a few years and recoup financial gains on our interest. There's a whole lot of stuff we can do with this, but I'm looking at probably a 15 when we go to sell it if these are successful. And I think that'll accomplish it. So with the local option sales tax, we have that utilized, a lot of it, up until about 2030, so about 5 years out. The last 10 years of that bond is why we want it. That'll replace the $600-some thousand payment that's being done right now for infrastructure projects before, Parkway, et cetera. The last phase of the ball diamonds, that was backloaded intentionally, so that did not eat up all the local option sales tax. This would slide right in after that, and you would now have $600,000 a year coming off, which would reduce the amount we have to tax for it. So it would be a combination of property tax and also a combination of local option sales tax. If there's any grant work out there, that's nice, and we can talk about grants all day. That delays the project even further, and I don't think people want to delay having another pool open. So that sounds great, CAT grants, love them. They take forever for what they're getting you into and the red tape they come with. I don't know if they're always worth it. In this situation, I don't think it would be, for the delay it would cause. So
And local fundraising is still an option?
it could be, depending on what you'd want to have fundraised. We'd have to break something out here separate. The way I've always approached this, as I've told you before, is I will find a solution. This is a solution. It may not be the most popular, but it gets the project done. If we can find other ways to raise money to offset this, that's great. But if we don't, this will still be finished. And that is the ultimate goal, is somehow these get done regardless of what happens, worst case scenario. But that's what we're sitting on right now.
So for the people viewing at home, can I just review this
Sure,
simply?
sure.
If we want to reopen the pool that we have, understanding there's been declining participation,
Yes.
and it's in bad need of repair, we could reopen for $4 million, but it's still an old pool that loses money.
It still requires a vote.
We could, for $5 million, still have an old pool that isn't very attractive, but at least be zero entry.
Correct.
Worst case scenario for 8.9, we could eliminate that pool and build something bigger, better, nicer that would be attractive, that would attract people to our community and be a real asset for our citizens.
Yes, sir. As we look at these, people should not take it lightly. These are probably 50-year projects. As they said, the original pool now is 57 years old. Golf club is 80 years old. These aren't projects going to turn around 10, 20 years and redo them again. These are long-term projects you're putting the investment in today. As we've seen time and time again, they don't get cheaper the further out you go. They will not be cheaper next year or the year after and so forth. Costs only keep going up on this thing. If you look at the price of concrete 3, 4 years ago, it was a fraction of what it is now. And what is this pool primarily? It's concrete. That's why this costs so much. But again, you look at the pricing of this, the project for the golf building, $3 million, $3.2 million for the actual construction. It's the demolition, it's the site prep, it's peeling the 2 feet off that hill, it's the permitting, it's the contingencies, it's the construction cost. All that adds to these pricings. Again, with the pool, you're about $5 million for the actual pool. But then you have all the fun things that you want. You want the play amenities, you want the water slide, you want the splash pads. That adds millions of dollars to these projects. But if we're gonna do it, you have to do it right. It's one time. And you can't add to it later, that's not allowed either. It's kind of a one shot, here you go.
Well, and it seems like the designs we've talked about, whether it's the pool or the clubhouse, have really been built with the future in mind
Yep.
and are going to last decades and be appealing for that long to a much wider variety of people than can access them now.
And they're not
So-
something dramatic and fancy and oh my
Right.
gosh, look at this. It is
Practical,
very
attractive, but practical, it seemed like.
Very simple
Yeah.
and very efficient and nothing out of the ordinary by any means, so.
Can you remind us, when was the last referendum for a big capital project?
I couldn't even tell you.
So it's
Long
been
before
quite a
I've
long
been here.
time since we've put something to the
Pete?
public.
I'm trying to think, of it. It's been quite a while.
20 years maybe?
Might be getting close.
Before me, so.
So you're
I
talking
don't
at
think
least
there's
20
been one
years?
since I've been in town.
Well, if Pete doesn't remember, it's prehistory.
I'm saying, it's been out there a little while, so yeah, probably 20 years, more. I wouldn't even know what it would have been.
Forgotten because I've been here too long.
The only one I can remember is way back in the early 80s, there was a bond referendum for a new recreation facility, community recreation facility.
Yeah.
That was like 82 or 83 or 84, something like that. Obviously didn't pass because we don't have one.
Yeah, that one did not pass.
But I would assume we would have had one since then, but I can't think of it.
Like I said, it's long before I was here.
Yeah,
They say the best time to do this building was 10 years ago. The
Right.
second best time is tomorrow.
yeah.
Because you keep waiting years and years and years, and it's not gonna get any better. These facilities will deteriorate, they will sit closed, eventually you will not have those in your
Right.
community, so.
Well, and the point of facilities is, to make Waverly an attractive place for people to live and work and play and move to. And, these are important investments for the citizens, not just because it's some kind of project that we want to do to see how, keep up with the other towns around here, but this is something that we need to do as a city to continue our development and our economic development.
This is not a vanity project. This
No.
is what helps us bring in qualified superintendents who want to live here
Right.
when the opportunity comes, allows us to bring in qualified professionals who want to settle here. It's what keeps Waverly growing, are the amenities.
And I think, the numbers look overwhelming, but I think it'll be very helpful to break it down for people per $100,000 of their property value, because I think it makes it more digestible
Nobody
when you look at it that way.
I've got the early estimates, let's see if I can break them out here. I've only had a chance to peek at these, make sure it's the right ones. So it looks like for the golf course, it'd be about $55, $56 per 100,000. And then for the pool, it's going to be about 95 per 100,000. And those are the worst case scenario of all the years that you'd have a 15-year bond. That is the highest one that we could find.
That's taxable valuation, not
Correct.
assessed valuation.
Taxable valuation.
People have to understand that.
I think it's going to be important for us to consistently and repeatedly communicate several points. I think it's really good that we looked at the option of rehabbing the existing pool. We didn't just say, oh yay, let's build a new pool.
Right.
I think it's important to keep in mind that we consistently hear from people that there's not enough to do in Waverly. And what others have said, that this is the way we keep a community growing and keep people here is by keeping our facilities nice and offering what people want. And I've heard and read some online people saying, well, why did the city let the pool fall into such disrepair? It's a 57-year-old pool. And maybe 5 years ago it would have been less expensive. 5 years ago we were building the Parkway.
You also didn't, 5 years ago, you also didn't have Memorial Park.
We still have the
Right.
fairground.
We still,
Yeah,
have
that's
been
true.
battling the
Yeah.
fair for years.
Good point.
Kicking the can down the road for years on these
Yeah.
projects.
Before anybody panics in the public, this is not general fund. Let's just calm down. It is not the general fund. We are not broke. My God, I'm so sick of hearing that stuff. Whole different fund, whole different limit, whole different process. It is dead. We are fine. You have to interject that for both the people looking at us on camera. Tell your friends, we're fine.
I think Councilperson Myers brings up a really good point. It's 57 years. Things start to break down. I've seen 57 years come and go, and I can guarantee you, things start to break down.
It's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
So the other piece of this, the fun part of it, Iowa Ethics and Campaign Disclosure Board. It's been talked about what can you do, what can't you do. Basically, don't do anything when it comes to this, so we don't get jammed up over it. This is something from Allers and Cooney. They send it out anytime there's kind of a bond issue of sorts, especially for referendum. You're very limited in how you market this. You know, you cannot say, please vote yes for this, you cannot say, please vote no for this, you can just say, please vote. Things of that nature. So you have to be very careful what you put out there, what you market, your comments, et cetera, as you were part of the city. Even our commissions are on that edge to where, be very careful in how you go about this. We cannot recruit people to come and do this for us. If individuals want to voluntarily come and do some of this work, we will hopefully have data sheets out there about a lot of things we've talked about, the age of the facilities, the cost of them, what it looks like. That'll all be out there, the impact of the taxes. They can go and distribute, they can go for or against, just whatever they feel like doing, but the big thing is you have to come and vote. Be heard, make your vote count. So this will kind of walk through different things, different exceptions. It's really the same thing you would look at if you're running for office. It's that exact same chapter of finance code for campaign finance. If there are fees taken in from facilities or paid out a certain amount of money, you do have to form an actual committee, a full-blown committee. Some would say you do that anyway. I think that's difficult. Not anybody wants to really run those things and have to fill out the ethics board campaign issues and do all this. It's a lot of paperwork. So we're gonna go about this and see how far this goes. I hope people will be educated on the project. We'll put article in the paper so that we get the facts out there as to what we're dealing with. The costs can get out there. All this stuff will start to happen probably in mid-late August. It's about the right timing, according to people that do this quite a bit. Because you're going to do a presidential election, which is one of the worst ones to do, because a significant number of people that never come out to vote for anything else come out for this. And with a lot of the rhetoric that's out there, it makes it difficult to sometimes get any taxable type items through, regardless of the dollar amount, just because of the nature of where things are in this country. So we'll see what happens. Best case scenario, they both go through. Worst case scenario, neither one goes through. Somewhere in the middle. People might think we'll save money. As I said, we have a list of projects. We'll still fill it in because those have got to get done too. It's not going to save money here and there. You're only paying off a certain amount each year. The capacity still sits there. The remaining balance is still eating up that capacity year after year after year. And so if there's any questions, ethics, campaign disclosure board, this is the simplest way to explain it. I plan to talk to others a little more as well to make sure that we are compliant in how we're doing this. But this is always a good thing they've sent out before is from the official state of Iowa website, what you can and can't do when you're marketing these campaigns.
So James, I have had people approach me and ask what they can do. So people who are in favor of the pool, what can they do as citizens? Should we direct that, I mean, down the road a little bit, direct
Yes.
them to city staff to get data if they want to then publicize numbers, costs, that sort of thing?
We'll have those fact sheets developed
Okay.
soon. In fact, we have one from the pool we're finalizing. They have done that. Golf does not have that yet. We're in the process of creating that so we can see what that looks like. And those can be distributed wherever. They can be put wherever they want to be. It's just be very careful as council and mayor, et cetera, myself in doing that. You can technically do it, just not in your present state of employment as a council member. Now, it's your 24 hours a day. I don't know how you separate the two. You are or you aren't. But that technically is the way that you can participate in this. You just have to be sure you do it as a citizen and not as an elected official.
So if a service club wants to invite one of us to come and give them the facts and answer questions, that's fine.
Absolutely, just the facts.
But we can't campaign.
Correct.
But if the, I don't know, swim team, for example, felt like they really wanted to campaign for this,
Go for
they're
it.
free, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, they can do what they'd like to do.
Mhm.
We just can't coerce, we can't recruit. People have to do it of their own free will, and that's just the way it's gonna work. It's a grassroots effort, and you'll have people that are against it, people that are for it. At the end of the day, you sort it out, 60% say yes, we move forward. It's not a difficult process, it's just, it's a lengthy and somewhat pricey one, but in the end, this is what you're getting. We've seen the boards, we'll have those out and about. We'll get those in the paper published as well, we'll have everything we can out there, links, et cetera, but it comes down to whatever people think, what their situation is, and if we need to have this or not.
Any other questions, council?
Is there I seem to remember going through here, there's a contact person given or contact for the board?
The ethics board?
The ethics board.
I don't see on here, there's contact us, but there we go.
That's what
It
I
says
thought.
contact the board for further
Google,
guidance.
Google's
but-
fantastic, I'll look it up on Google.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the best way to do it. And again, this is from the official State of
Yeah.
Iowa website for Iowa Ethics Campaign. We did not print off every page of it, but there is a contact us if you need to, if there's any questions about what you can and can't do.
I suspect there may be a link on the page if you actually go to the page.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Everyone okay?
Yep.
Other scoop.
All right, then we'll move to item F, reports from boards and commissions. You have in front of you a board report from the Board of Adjustments. Any discussion? I see none. James, staff reports?
Yes, sir. I don't think we have any tonight.
Okay. City council comments. Pastor Bergen. I'm sorry, Councilperson Bergen.
I've got lots of titles for this now.
I know Pastor Bergen, he's a great guy, but Councilperson Bergen.
So I just wanted to thank everyone who helped organize Heritage Days, had a great time, enjoyed the fireworks, enjoyed all the activities, enjoyed the parade, everything. So thanks to everyone who helped get that organized. And anyone who wishes to discuss city council business, I will be at the Bramer Brewing Company after the meeting.
Councilperson Jones.
Nothing tonight.
Councilperson Myers. Councilperson Drinko.
I pass.
Wow. Councilperson Rothy.
Goodness, okay, well, I'm gonna reiterate what Brian said. Thanks to everybody who came out to Heritage Days. We got totally lucky with the weather this year. And thanks so much to city staff who helped. The police department, the parks guys, Public Works, whoever was down there helping set up, take down, et cetera. They really couldn't do it. And the committee's very clear that they are so appreciative of city staff help. So, and it took a lot of volunteers to organize things, make sure all the events ran well, and then clean up afterwards. So appreciate everybody's help. It was fun.
Councilperson Wolf.
Nothing tonight.
Huh. So, Jared, what'd you think? What kind of comments you got for us, sir?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity. It's been very educational. I had somebody ask me my thoughts on last week, and I just said the word that I came up with was I was encouraged. It seems like, and there was some talk last week, which I thought was very appropriate, that it seems like more and more in today's world, everything is so divisive and everybody's, it seems like if I need to get my point across, I need to be the loudest, I need to be the most derogatory, I need to create conflict, and I just feel like that's not the right way, and I worry about our kids because they model behaviors, and they copy and model themselves after what they see, what they hear, and it's not hard to turn on TV and see examples with our elected leaders that, in my opinion, are not the right model that we want to be. And so we had an individual last week that was here that was very passionate about a concern that he had. And I was encouraged by the fact that you all listened. And it was very cordial. And there was good questions answered. It didn't mean that you necessarily agreed with everything that was being brought up. But the way in which that was conducted, I was just very encouraged. So I just appreciate the opportunity, and it's been fun.
Thank you, and thank you for being with us. For the mayor's comments, I also attended the Heritage Days, and I just thought it was a really great event. I had lots of fun. I really appreciate how much of the event is free. It really helps out families who want to bring their kids for a good time, but I did notice how many volunteers it takes. I'd never really noticed before, but when I was down there most of the time, it's a whole lot of people that have to step up in order to make this event happen. And if you as a citizen did not have the opportunity to volunteer this year, I'm pretty sure we're going to have Heritage Days again next year. And don't forget, if you thought Heritage Days was fun, the Bremer County Fair is coming up. So, thank you for a great meeting, everybody. Waverly, be kind. I'm open to a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? I hear none. Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.